What's an oaf?
Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Nathan. I'm an OAF. My mission in making all these videos is to promote the outdoors, to get people outside, and of course, to get people to realize their inner OAF and embrace it. One of the things that I think is important for me to do in this channel is to identify what exactly is an OAF. Being an OAF is hard because in order to be one, you have to kind of acknowledge that you are one. And a lot of people don't want to admit that they are OAFs on the inside somewhere. A little bit of context. There are plenty of ways to identify what is an OAF. One easy way is to just point out the traditional format of an OAF. A person who is clumsy, dim-witted, doesn't know what they're talking about, that's a good example of an OAF. Well, if you look at like the old school definition of an OAF, it's like the son of a goblin. I mean, I'm not the son of a goblin. I have a dad who sometimes can make a face. He looks a bit like a goblin. So maybe that means that I'm an OAF in that sense. I guess I'm an OAF in every sense of the word. I've got a goblin for a father and I'm a bit clumsy myself. But that's not how you identify yourself as an OAF. Okay, maybe this will be better if I use kind of a story to explain this. When I was a teenager, I figured I had everything figured out. I was 15 years old, I think. I was old enough to kind of figure that I had figured out the rest of life myself. And along comes an opportunity to work in the summer, working at a pizza place, washing dishes. A friend of mine wanted me to work with him in the summer, wash dishes. And I was kind of like, yes, money. I'm going to be rich. And so I kept looking at all the possibilities of what that would mean. I sort of came to this conclusion, this is it. This is where life begins. And so when my father came to me, when I was planning out the rest of my summer based on this job, he told me about this camp. And I was not happy that I had to go on this camp. I was involved in the scouting program at the time, and one of the scout leaders had put together this camp, and it was hiking in the Olympic mountain range in Washington, the Olympic Mountains. We were going to climb Mount Olympus in the Olympic mountain range. In my little teenage brain, I was like, I'm not doing that. That's my, that means I have to like not do the thing that I really, really want to do. And so I resisted. My dad came back with this quote, and I'll always love him for doing this because for me, it was something that changed me inside. And I didn't know it at the time, but my dad said to me, you got two options. You can go happy and enjoy it, or you can go kicking and screaming. There is no other option. So really one option, but in my teenage brain, I was like, he's making me do things. So I resisted and I was mad and upset. And to make things worse, of course, I ended up having a horrible backpack. I had one of those old school backpacks with no waist belt. And it was an external frame pack, if you know the difference between that and an internal frame. There aren't a lot of external frame packs around anymore because they suck, needless to say. I was not loving life. It was a 25-kilometer hike in up to the base. And yeah, I was unprepared. I had no real training. I didn't understand anything about backpacking. And so I resisted. I hated it. And first 2 days were just torture. On the second day, we had to go up, and it was steep, and I was, exhausted. I didn't really plan what I was going to bring for food. My attitude, of course, was very poor. And then something changed. So second day, near the end of the day, one of the leaders kind of says, hey, come on, guys, come see something. And we had been hiking up all day. So I was tired and kind of like, I don't know what's going to be good, but whatever. Everyone else is going, so I'm going with everyone else. And it brings us up this ridge line. We come up over top of this ridge, and I look over and look across, and there's this valley that goes down and this big, big glacier, and probably about 4 or 5 different peaks, just kind of like all spaced around, and this big flat glacier, and then off in the distance, this big rounded mountain, and then beyond some more peaks. And the scout leader at the time says, that's where we're going tomorrow. Something inside me clicked. A lot of people talk about having an experience like this, where things shifted immediately. And something that really changed me inside, that was it was a very personal moment. Sometimes I get choked up about it. I don't know why I'm getting like slightly choked up about it right now, but this was something that for me is a point in time, I'll always feel grateful for this particular moment. Something happened in my brain that said, oh, you've been focusing on the wrong thing this whole time. And people who are in the outdoors sometimes know what this experience is like. They've been kind of staring at their feet for a long time, and they start to get tired and bored, and all of a sudden something happens and they just see like the view, and it's, you know, it's beautiful, and they have this moment where things shift. Anyway, for me, it was this moment, because at that exact moment, I realized how much my attitude had created most of my misery. My own poor attitude had basically covered my view of what was really going on. And what I saw at that moment was, you know, immense beauty, and not just beauty, but in like enormous peaks. And I kind of like, I was like, how did I not notice this? I've been hiking this whole time and I didn't notice any of it. Why do I tell that story? To me, that is a good example of realizing if you've been an oaf, or that you are an oaf. And at that moment I realized, oh, I am an oaf. I make excuses, I find ways out of things, or I try to avoid things. And it wasn't like, oh, suddenly everything changed and everything was perfect and fixed. Not at all. But I think the realization of that moment was what changed my path that I was on at the time for the better. One of the big reasons why I'm sharing this story, I feel very strongly as someone who can make content about things that have the power to shift perspectives, that have the power to put people in their place a little bit. And I don't mean that in a mean way at all. I just mean to see what you've been missing, to kind of become aware of that. If I can offer that to people, well, then that's a good cause. And that's essentially at the heart of my making this channel, why I got into guiding, why I became a teacher, why I did a lot of the things that I do, is because I feel like I can help people realize that. So if you're just hearing this and you're kind of like, who is this oaf that's always talking about being an oaf, blah, 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 and you're kind of not quite sure, I hope my little story there makes sense. I hope it encourages you to look at maybe your life in that way and think about what are some things that maybe you miss. I mean, down here, out here, I got so much crap going on in my life right now, and yet down here, it's calm. I feel at peace. And it's not a peace of like, oh yeah, because now my life's in control down here. Not at all. It's still like all over the place. But man, down here just feels like a place where you can exist and be insignificant despite everything. If you like that, we've got a couple of different kinds of videos. I'm big into diamond willows, and if you're curious about how to make your own walking stick, you can check out our series on that, and I've got the first one there. And the other video I'd check out if you're new to backpacking or hiking, I've got a couple of videos on how to pack a backpack. So check those out, and we'll see you out there. Bye.